so much. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Tracey Meyers. I'm a clinical psychologist and staff clinician at Lawyers Concerned for Lawyers, Massachusetts. We serve the legal community in Massachusetts, including law students, legal professionals, lawyers, and judges. My role at LCL, I do individual consultations. I teach mindfulness, yoga, and different well-being strategies. And I'm happy to be here to share a little bit about those well-being strategies today. You've probably heard a lot about mindfulness. It's like one of the hot topics over the past few years, especially for lawyers who are struggling with stress and anxiety, depression, increased substance use. We know that lawyers are a stressed out group, and mindfulness has been shown in the research to help a lot with anxiety, depression, and stress reduction. So it sounds very magical, mindfulness, especially given the amount of stress. How is it really effective? Does it really work? Many lawyers will say to me, I've tried to meditate and I can't. The good news is everyone actually can do it, and you actually can't do it wrong. So I'm going to talk about that in a moment, but I want to go through the basics of mindfulness first and talk about why it's important and how it works. So mindfulness refers to being present in the moment, paying attention to something, usually the breath or the body, something in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So not judging ourselves, not beating ourselves up. Other definitions I really like about mindfulness often include the idea of remembering to come back to the breath as an anchor, remembering to be in the present moment, and also to experience what's happening in the here and now, using our senses, using our body, and our five senses. So present moment awareness, why is that so important? Why is it important to be in the present moment? I don't want to be in the present moment. Sometimes that's how we feel, right, when we're stressed. So there's been a lot of research. There's a great study in 2010 called A Wandering Mind is an Unhappy Mind. And two researchers out of Harvard discovered that we mind wander all the time. They asked people throughout the day using an app how many times their mind was wandering. They asked them what they were doing and whether their minds were wandering or whether they were paying attention to what they were doing. And they found that our minds wander about 47% of the time, no matter what we're doing. Whether we're at work or at home, we are chronically not paying attention. But here's the more important part about that study. They found that when people's minds were wandering, they were less happy. So if our minds wander a lot, and if we're less happy when our minds wander, we have unhappy minds, essentially. The flip side is the more that we're in the present moment, the more that we're able to pay attention, gather our attention using mindfulness, that alone can make us feel better. So present moment awareness, being mindful, can actually help us feel better without even having to do anything else, but simply pay attention. Another important thing to consider if you're wanting to start a meditation practice again, or if you haven't started one before, is that our nervous system is wired for stress. Regular run-of-the-mill stress, we handle pretty well. We have something called a window of tolerance, which refers to our, ultimate capacity to manage the day in and day out of stress. And when we're functioning well, our window of tolerance is wide open, meaning that we can handle, routine things or even things that are a little bit troubling without getting too upset, too anxious. We might feel a little bit of anxiety and then we come back to the present moment and we're like, okay, I can handle this. But with ongoing, enduring stress, and many of us have experienced that, especially legal professionals, right? There's ongoing, enduring stress. The window of tolerance can begin to narrow. And if you've experienced significant stress, like many people have over the past year or more, that window of tolerance can get really narrow. So even small stressors can create a lot of anxiety or stress in the body. So mindfulness can help with that, because if our nervous system is always on edge, if our window of tolerance is narrow so that even small little things can create disturbances, we need something to help downshift, to downregulate, to help us feel calmer. So mindfulness, simply paying attention to the breath or the body, and we'll do a brief practice at the end, can help us so that our window of tolerance begins to expand. We can navigate stressors without getting off the rails, so to speak, right? Or depressed. Sometimes if we have too much stress, our nervous system kind of goes on shutdown. Mindfulness also helps with Zoom fatigue. So many of us have experienced that, right? So much concentration on the screen. And when we close our eyes and pay attention to the breath, we're resetting. We're coming into a different network in the brain. And that present-centered network in the brain helps us so that we can pay attention better, we feel more relaxed and at ease. And the final selling point, this is really important for many of us, is that mindfulness can help decrease negative thoughts. Most of us have negative thoughts that are going on throughout the day. I call them automatic negative thoughts, or ants, right? And they're constantly out there. We may not even be paying attention to them because they happen so much. The researchers have found that we have somewhere between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts a day. So we're thinking a lot. And out of those 12 to 60,000 thoughts a day, around 80% are negative. We're wired that way, to always be on the lookout for danger, to try to avoid situations that could cause us harm, right? So we have a lot of anticipatory anxiety, or a lot of anxious thoughts. And here's the startling part: about 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts. Just maybe a slightly different tune, right? Same station though. And if you think about, our kind of top 10 list of negative thoughts or worries, right? They're usually in the same categories. So mindfulness can help decrease rumination, that worry that's happening over and over. If we're focused on the breath in the here and now, we're not stuck in our head worrying about the same thoughts. And the more freedom we get from those thoughts, the more that we can be present, awake, alert, and feel better. Okay, so that's the long and short, kind of on the short side, of some of the benefits of mindfulness. So I wanted to show you a couple of easy practices you can do. So the first one I'm going to show you is called 2 feet, 1 breath. 2 feet, 1 breath. I had a teacher many years ago who said, when you're stuck with worried thoughts, you got to get out of your head. Okay, that sounds easier said than done, right? So how do you get out of your head? Well, go to your feet. So let's try. So if we go to our feet, the furthest part of our bodies away from our heads, we may find some ease away from some of those repetitive patterns. So let's do it together. So first, I want you to put all of your energy into your left foot. Really press into the foot. Feel the whole leg engage, right? The muscles, the feet, and then release. And now press into the right foot and feel all of the muscles engaged from the lower leg all the way up, and then release. And now take a breath. And did you notice that you weren't worrying about something in that moment? The 2 feet, 1 breath is a way to break that cycle when you feel stuck or gripped. And probably you noticed you were just paying attention to your legs, paying attention to your breath and the sensations, right? And so if you do this practice regularly, you'll notice that there's this way of just bringing yourself back when the mind starts to go into one of those worried patterns. One other really short practice I want to show you today is called the stop sign. And the stop refers to, it's an acronym, and it refers to taking a pause when you're feeling stressed. So the S is stop what you're doing. Sometimes I also use the S for sit down. So when we're feeling stressed, it's good to stop and sit down. T is take a breath. O is observe. What's happening in my body? What emotions are here? What's going on, right? And then P is proceed. But we proceed once we feel ready to. It's like a skillful proceeding. We're not reacting. We're actually taking a moment. So we stop, we sit down, take a breath, observe. Maybe there's tension in the body. Maybe there's a little bit of a hurt feeling or an anxious feeling. We can notice that. Sometimes I even place both hands on the heart. There's a little bit of worry here. I'm going to take a moment. Okay, I'm ready to proceed. So those 2 strategies are very brief on-the-spot mindfulness practices. So you can do mindfulness anywhere. Over time, utilizing some brief practices, you can build up your toolkit so that you become more and more in the present moment. And then perhaps begin to explore practices that last a little bit longer. But starting with very brief practices and building on them can help you come back into the present moment. So I hope you enjoyed these brief practices, and please continue to find some mindfulness practices that you can do every day. My name is Tracey Meyers, and I'm a clinician at LCL of Massachusetts. Thank you so much for participating today.